when I discovered a sealed room in my childhood home containing baby items and a photograph of me holding an infant I have no memory of. My mother's terrified reaction revealed a family secret that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my past. The crowbar felt cold in my hands as I wedged it into the gap behind the wardrobe. Dust particles floated through the afternoon light streaming from my old bedroom window. I should have been packing up Dad's things. He'd been gone 3 months now. But instead, I was prying open a wall that shouldn't exist. The wood splintered. The sound echoed through the empty house. And then I saw it. A crib, white rails covered in a fine layer of dust. A mobile with faded stars hanging motionless above it. Stuffed animals arranged carefully on a changing table. And on the wall, dozens of Polaroids. Pictures of me, younger, holding a baby. Smiling, glowing, looking like a mother. I picked up one photo with trembling hands. On the back, in my own handwriting, Emma and me, 3 months old, March 2021. 3 years ago. I stared at that date until the numbers blurred. 3 years ago, I was living in my apartment in Cleveland, working at the insurance company, eating Stouffer's lasagna alone on my couch every night. I wasn't pregnant. I didn't have a baby. Did I? My legs gave out. I sat on the dusty floor of this impossible room, holding a photograph of a life I couldn't remember, and the walls started closing in. That's when I heard my mother's car pull into the driveway. My name is Catherine Brennan. I'm 47 years old. Most people call me Katie, but my mother always insisted on Catherine, proper, controlled, the way she wanted me to be. I'm telling you this story today because for 47 years, I thought I knew who I was. I thought I understood my place in my family, my history, my life. I was wrong about all of it. And the truth is so much worse than any lie I could have imagined. Let me back up. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, in one of those ranch-style houses with vinyl siding and a chain-link fence around the backyard. Middle-class American dream territory. My dad, Robert, worked maintenance at the GM plant. My mom, Patricia, was a dental hygienist who kept our house so clean you could eat off any surface. I had one sister, Vanessa, 3 years younger than me, and from the day she was born, she was golden. You know how some families have a favorite? That was Vanessa. Everything she did was brilliant. Every grade was celebrated. Every boyfriend was welcomed with open arms. When she wanted to go to Michigan State for pre-med, Mom and Dad took out a second mortgage to make it happen. Me, I was the steady one, the reliable one, the one who got B's and was told, "That's nice, honey," before Mom turned back to Vanessa's A+ English paper. I was the one who stayed in state at Cincinnati, who lived at home to save money, who took the practical job with benefits after graduation. I wasn't bitter. At least I told myself I wasn't. But there was always this gap. This feeling that I was watching my own life through a window, pressing my hands against the glass while everyone else lived in full color on the other side. When Dad died in August, it was sudden. Heart attack while watching the Indians game. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. Mom was devastated, but in that controlled way she had. Dry-eyed at the funeral, focused on logistics. She asked me to handle clearing out the house. She was moving to a condo in Columbus to be closer to Vanessa, who was now a successful pediatric surgeon with 2 kids and a husband who looked like he stepped out of an LL Bean catalog. "You're so good at organizing, Catherine," Mom said, patting my hand. "It makes sense for you to do this." Translation: Vanessa's time is too valuable. So there I was, 3 months later in my childhood home, alone, sorting through decades of memories that barely included me. I'd been packing up the master bedroom when I noticed it. The wardrobe, this massive oak thing that had been in my parents' room forever, sat at a weird angle from the wall. When I tried to move it, I felt a breeze. Cold air coming from behind it. I pulled harder. The wardrobe scraped across the hardwood, and that's when I saw the door. Small, painted the same color as the wall, almost invisible, and it was sealed. Not locked, sealed. Someone had literally caulked around the edges. Every rational part of my brain, said to leave it alone. But I couldn't. Inside that room was a nursery, complete, perfect, frozen in time. The crib had a mobile with those wooden stars and moons. There was a rocking chair with a nursing pillow still draped over the arm, a diaper pail, a bookshelf with board books, Good Night Moon, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Guess How Much I Love You. And the photos, God, the photos. Me, heavily pregnant, standing in front of Target with shopping bags. Me in a hospital bed, exhausted, holding a tiny bundle. Me in this very room, rocking a baby, my face soft with love. Photo after photo after photo of a life I didn't remember living. I checked every picture. The dates ranged from December 2020 to March 2021, just 4 months, and then nothing. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the Polaroid when I heard the front door open. "Catherine, are you here?" Mom's voice, calling from downstairs. I should have hidden the photos. I should have said nothing. But I was 47 years old, holding evidence of a child I apparently had and lost, and something inside me snapped. I walked downstairs with a handful of Polaroids clutched against my chest. Mom was in the kitchen, setting grocery bags on the counter. She looked up when I entered, and I watched her face transform. She went from pleasant to pale in the space of a heartbeat. "What are those?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "You tell me." I spread the photos across the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten dinner for 20 years. Because apparently, I had a baby 3 years ago, and I have absolutely no memory of it. Mom's hand went to her throat. Her eyes darted to the photos, then to me, then to the photos again. "Where did you find these?" "There's a room, behind the wardrobe in your bedroom, a nursery, sealed shut." I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Why is there a sealed nursery in this house, Mom? Why are there pictures of me with a baby named Emma?" She pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. For a long moment, she didn't speak. She just stared at the photos with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. "Terror. We swore never to open that room again," she finally said. The way she said it, like it was a curse, a grave that should have stayed undug, made my blood run cold. "What happened to my baby?" The question came out raw. "Did I lose her? Did she die? Why can't I remember?" Mom covered her face with her hands. When she spoke, her voice was muffled. "You had a breakdown, Catherine." "A severe one," the doctors said. "They said it was better if you didn't remember." The story came out in pieces, fragments, like Mom was reassembling a puzzle she'd locked away years ago. According to her, I'd gotten pregnant in 2020. The father was someone I'd been seeing. She was vague about who. I'd hidden the pregnancy from everyone except Mom and Dad. When the baby came in December, I'd fallen apart. Postpartum psychosis, she called it. Severe depression. I'd apparently become a danger to myself. "We had to intervene," Mom said, her eyes wet now. "We had to take the baby." "Take her where?" Silence. "Mom, where's Emma?" "She's safe, she's happy. That's all you need to know." Something in the way she said it, that dismissive tone, that finality, triggered something in me. It was the same tone she'd used my whole life. "That's all you need to know, Catherine. Don't ask questions, Catherine. Just accept it, Catherine." "I want to see her." "That's not possible. She's my daughter." "No," Mom stood up abruptly. "You signed away your rights, it's done. The adoption was finalized years ago." Adoption. The word hung in the air like smoke. "You made me give up my baby." "We did what was best for everyone." Her voice was firmer now, back in control. "You were unstable, Catherine. You couldn't care for a child. We found her a good home, a stable home." "With who?" She turned away, started unpacking groceries like this was a normal conversation. Like she hadn't just told me I'd had a child I didn't remember and given her away. "Mom, with who?" Her shoulders tensed. "Vanessa." The kitchen floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "What?" Vanessa couldn't have children of her own. The fertility treatments weren't working. It was perfect timing. She and Marcus wanted a baby so badly, and you couldn't take care of Emma, so You gave my baby to Vanessa. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation, an indictment. Mom finally looked at me. We did what was best for the family. For the family, or for Vanessa. Don't be dramatic. That word, dramatic. She'd been calling me dramatic my whole life whenever I expressed an emotion she didn't want to deal with. Does Vanessa know? My voice was shaking now. Does she know Emma is mine? Mom hesitated. She knows you carried her, but Emma knows Vanessa as her mother. That's the truth that matters now. The truth, I laughed, and it sounded unhinged even to my own ears. You erased me. You took my child and you erased me. We helped you, Mom's voice rose. You were falling apart, Catherine. You couldn't work. You couldn't function. We had to make decisions. Did you even try to help me? Did you get me real treatment? Or did you just see an opportunity to give Vanessa what she wanted? The silence that followed was answer enough. I left the house that day and didn't look back. I drove to my apartment in Cleveland, hands shaking on the steering wheel, and sat in the parking lot for an hour trying to breathe, trying to process, trying to figure out if what I'd just learned was even possible. Could you forget a pregnancy, a birth, 4 months of motherhood? I started researching, hours of research that bled into days, and I learned about dissociative amnesia, trauma-induced memory loss, the mind's ability to protect itself by burying unbearable experiences. But I also learned something else. It's incredibly rare to forget that much time unless the trauma is reinforced, unless someone actively helps you forget. I thought about the photos in that sealed room, my handwriting on the back, my face in those pictures. I looked happy, tired but happy, not psychotic, not dangerous. And then I remembered something else. Winter of 2021, I'd taken a leave of absence from work, 3 months. I barely remembered it. When people asked about that time, I'd tell them I'd been sick, some kind of flu that knocked me on my ass. But I hadn't been sick, had I? I'd been pregnant, giving birth, becoming a mother. And then they'd taken it all away. I started piecing together that winter from bank statements, from old emails, from anything I could find. There were gaps in my credit card history, purchases I didn't remember making, baby supplies, maternity clothes, a hospital bill from Dayton General. It was all there, buried in the paper trail of my life. I'd had a baby, and somehow my family had convinced me it never happened. I didn't call Vanessa right away. I needed to be sure. I needed evidence. So I drove to Dayton. I parked down the street from her perfect colonial in the suburbs, and I watched, waited. On the 3rd day, I saw her. A little girl with dark curls, my curls, playing in the front yard while Vanessa watched from the porch. She looked exactly like the baby pictures of me in my parents' photo albums. Emma, my daughter, living 10 minutes from where I grew up, calling my sister, Mommy. I hired a lawyer, a good one. She specialized in family law and adoption cases. She listened to my story with a carefully neutral expression. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. Catherine, I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to be extremely difficult to prove and even harder to overturn. But I didn't consent, not really. You signed papers. I'm assuming there are papers. I didn't know. I had no memory of it. Even if we could prove coercion, it's been 3 years. The courts prioritize stability for the child. Emma knows Vanessa as her mother. Disrupting that would be what? Would be unfair to everyone who lied to me. The lawyer's expression softened. I understand your anger, but fighting this in court could take years and cost tens of thousands of dollars, and you might not win. Then what am I supposed to do? You could try reaching out to your sister, explain what you've discovered, ask for visitation rights, build a relationship with Emma as an aunt. An aunt. To my own daughter. I tried it. God help me, I tried. I called Vanessa. She didn't answer. I texted. Nothing. I sent an email laying everything out, the room, the photos, my memories starting to come back in fractured pieces. She responded 3 days later with a message from her lawyer. It was a cease and desist letter, threatening harassment charges if I contacted her or her family again. At the bottom, Vanessa had added a handwritten note. "She's my daughter, Katie. Let her go." That's when I understood. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a family trying to help me in a crisis. This was theft. They'd stolen my child. My mother and my sister had conspired to take my baby and make me forget she ever existed. And they'd done it so cleanly, so completely, that I couldn't even prove it without destroying my own credibility. Because who would believe a woman who forgot she had a baby? I spent 2 weeks in a dark place after that, called in sick to work, barely ate. Sat in my apartment, staring at those Polaroids I'd taken from the house. In one photo, I was looking down at baby Emma with this expression of pure love, pure wonder, like she was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. I'd felt that. I knew I had. Somewhere deep in the buried places of my mind, I remembered what it felt like to be her mother. And they'd taken it from me. Revenge, I learned, is a dish best served with perfect timing and documentation. I started with my father's estate. I was the executor. Mom had asked me to handle it, probably because she knew Vanessa was too busy. There were bank accounts to close, assets to distribute, paperwork to file. And that's when I found it. My college fund. It existed. All those years when Mom told me there was no money for anything but state school, that I needed to be practical, that we couldn't afford better, it was all a lie. Dad had set up accounts for both Vanessa and me when we were born. Equal amounts, $50,000 each, meant for education. Vanessa's fund had paid for Michigan State, exactly as intended. Mine had been emptied in 2019, 2 years before I got pregnant. I pulled the records. The withdrawals had paid for Vanessa's fertility treatments. 3 rounds of IVF at $20,000 each, all funded by the college money that was supposed to be mine. And there was a note in Dad's files, a letter in his handwriting dated 2019. Patricia convinced me this was right. Vanessa needs this more. Katie will understand. She always understands. I didn't cry when I found that letter. I was past crying. I made copies of everything. Bank statements, withdrawal records, Dad's note. I documented every cent that had been taken from my account and transferred to Vanessa's medical expenses. Then I kept digging. The adoption papers were sealed, but there were other records. Medical records from my leave of absence. Bills from a psychiatric facility in Columbus, where I'd apparently spent 6 weeks after Emma was born. I requested my files from the facility. It took weeks and a lawyer's letter, but they finally sent them. And there it was in black and white. I'd been admitted involuntarily. Mom and Dad had committed me. The diagnosis was postpartum depression, but the notes were thin. I'd been kept sedated for most of my stay. When I was released, I'd been prescribed medication that caused memory issues as a side effect. They'd chemically erased me. I sat on all of this for months, gathered more evidence, built my case. I wasn't going to court. The lawyer was right, that was a losing battle. But there were other kinds of justice. In July, Mom called to invite me to Vanessa's birthday party. A big celebration at her house. All the family would be there. "It would mean so much if you came, Catherine. We haven't seen you in so long." Like nothing had happened, like I hadn't discovered their betrayal. "I'll be there," I said. The party was everything I expected. Vanessa's perfect house with the professionally decorated rooms, the catered food, the perfectly dressed children running through the backyard. Emma was there, 4 years old now, still had my curls, my eyes. She was playing with Vanessa's son, the boy they'd adopted 2 years after taking Emma. Apparently one of my children wasn't enough for her. I brought a gift, a large envelope. When it was time for cake, I stood up and clinked my glass. "I'd like to make a toast," I said. Vanessa smiled. Mom looked pleased. They thought I was finally falling in line, finally accepting my place. To family, I said, and to truth. I opened the envelope and pulled out copies of the documents. Dad's letter, the bank statements, the medical records. Did you all know, I said conversationally, that my college fund paid for Vanessa's fertility treatments? That Mom and Dad took $50,000 that was supposed to be mine and gave it to her instead? The room went silent. Or that I had a baby 4 years ago. A baby that Mom and Dad took from me while I was medicated in a psychiatric facility I was committed to against my will. Vanessa's face went white. Katie, Emma is my biological daughter, but you all knew that, didn't you? You just decided that Vanessa deserved her more than I did. I turned to my mother. You stole my money, you stole my child, you stole my memories, and you made me think I was crazy for feeling like something was missing from my life. Mom stood up, shaking. You were unstable, we did what was best for Vanessa. You always did what was best for Vanessa. I looked around the room at the family members who were staring at me in shock. Aunts and uncles and cousins who'd never questioned why I suddenly had a niece who looked exactly like me. I'm not here for forgiveness, I said. I'm here to make sure you all know the truth and to give you this. I handed Vanessa a second envelope. That's a lawsuit for financial restitution. $50,000 plus interest. I'm suing you for the money that was stolen from me. I have documentation, I have Dad's letter, I have bank records proving every cent. You can pay it back, or I can take you to court and make this all public record. Vanessa opened the envelope with shaking hands. You can't. I can, and I am. You took my daughter, so I'm taking back what you stole. I left the party after that, got in my car and drove away while the perfect celebration imploded behind me. They called, of course. Mom left crying voicemails begging me to reconsider. Vanessa's lawyer sent threatening letters, but my lawyer was better. 3 months later, Vanessa settled. She paid back the full amount plus interest. $68,000 transferred into my account. I used it to buy a house, a small craftsman bungalow in Cleveland Heights with a backyard and a front porch, the kind of place I'd always wanted. And I used it for one more thing. I hired a private investigator to monitor Emma. Not to interfere, I knew that ship had sailed, but to make sure she was okay, to document her life, to have photos and updates. One day, when she's 18, I'll give her a letter. I'll tell her the truth about where she came from, about the mother who wanted her desperately but lost her to family politics and betrayal. I'll give her the choice to know me or not. That's all I can do. I don't talk to my mother anymore, or Vanessa. The rest of the family took sides, most sided with them, predictably. I'm the troublemaker, the dramatic one, the one who couldn't let things go. But I don't need them. I built a new life, found a therapist who specializes in trauma and recovered memories, started painting again, something I'd loved as a kid but gave up because it wasn't practical. Slowly, more memories have come back, fragments of that winter, feeling Emma move inside me, the sound of her crying, the weight of her in my arms. They're painful memories because they remind me of what I lost, but they're also proof. Proof that I'm not crazy. Proof that I was a mother, even if only for a few months. Here's what I want you to understand. Family betrayal is the deepest kind of wound because it comes from the people who are supposed to protect you. For 47 years, I believed my family's version of who I was. The practical one, the steady one, the one who didn't need as much because she didn't want as much. It was all a lie designed to make me small enough to fit in the spaces they left for me. When I discovered the truth, I had two choices. I could accept their narrative and disappear into it forever, or I could fight for my own story. I chose to fight. Not with violence, not with cruelty, but with truth, with documentation, with the stubborn refusal to let them rewrite my history anymore. Did I get my daughter back? No, that loss will hurt for the rest of my life. But I got something else. I got myself back. I got the knowledge that I'm not broken. I'm not dramatic. I'm not asking for too much when I expect to be treated with basic honesty and respect. And I got my money back. The money that was mine by right. The money that represented my father's love for me before my mother convinced him I didn't deserve it. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about reclamation. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed by your family, I want you to hear this. You are not obligated to forgive people who hurt you just because you share DNA. You are not required to keep secrets that protect their image while destroying your truth. You are allowed to fight back, to demand what's yours, to refuse to be erased. It won't be easy. People will call you difficult, vindictive, unable to move on. Let them. Your peace is worth more than their comfort. Your truth is worth more than their lies. And your life, your real life, not the one they tried to force you into, is waiting for you on the other side of their betrayal. You just have to be brave enough to reach for it. My name is Catherine Brennan. I'm 47 years old. I'm a mother, even though I can't claim that title out loud. I'm a survivor of a family that tried to make me disappear. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to disappear for anyone. Not even the people who raised you. Especially not the people who raised you. Stand up, speak your truth, take back what's yours. The life you deserve is on the other side of their expectations. Go get it.